Designs can be presented in what's called layout space, and this particular design has a number of layout spaces associated with it. So if I click the tab labelled Layout 4, we're into a presentation space. If I click on any one of the objects, there's an arc there that's showing. You can see it's an object in the layout space itself, and in a sense it's duplicating what was in the model space. So this layout and others here, here's another one and another one, this layout has been created by copying from model space and then pasting into layout space, and that's not the most efficient way to work and can lead to scaling problems. I've just highlighted, let me unselect again, and I'll just zoom in. I'll take off my grid, just highlight that line which is supposedly represents a 10-meter length, and you can see the length is 38.287 units. So clearly the scaling here is wrong. And if you make your layout spaces by copying from model space and pasting in here, that creates a great deal of difficulty. What you really want to do is just to set up views, different views of the model in these layout spaces, and not copy. And what I hope to do is to show you the best way to do that. Perhaps because of the way in which this drawing has been constructed and the way that layout tabs have been set, I'm having a great deal of difficulty managing the drawing. For example, if I click the layout over here that we were looking at has been duplicated here and clearly been scaled. So if I select that little 10-unit marker there, you can see here its length is 27.071, whereas back in the smaller version it was an accurate 10-unit length. So what I'm going to do is get away from this environment, and I can do that effectively by just grabbing everything in the model, the correctly sized model, and copy to the clipboard. Then I can say I want a new drawing based on the default, and then I can say I want to paste from the clipboard into this drawing. So I have a brand new clean drawing, which should work a lot more efficiently when all of those come across, and we'll pop things down. So now when I click on that little marker bar there, I get a length of 10, which is correct. And now what I'm going to do is select everything and scale, and I'll scale based around 00 by a factor of 1000, and zoom extents again. And now when I get in here and click on there, the bar now says that's 10,000 units or 10 meters. So whenever I make inquiries of this drawing, it'll spit back numbers to me which are much more meaningful. So these are parking bays through here. So if I said tools distance from, say, there across to there, I should get somewhere near 2.7, which is the standard width, 2700 standard width for a car parking space. So I'm pretty happy. We now have a drawing that's clean, quick and efficient, and we're in a position now to do some layouts on, say, an A1 sheet. You may recall that I said it's best to put all objects in model space at full size and then create layouts where within the layout you take a snapshot of any part of the plan. So in a layout we could produce a drawing just of this zone or another zone through there, or even the car parking area if that's what we wanted to do. But let's set up one showing you the whole drawing, and it won't require copying and bloating up the file size. So let's see how it's done. So it's format, layout. We're going to create a new layout, and we'll choose an A1 sheet, and in album format we'll click in here. I like to give my sheets a meaningful name, so it's A1 at 1 to 100. We're going to have a defined scale on the A1 sheet of this plan, leaving plenty of room around the edge for images that will illustrate our planting plan. So we can OK that. Now when we move to layout, automatically the sheet gets put in, and a floating view of the design, whatever happens to be displayed in model space, is automatically put into the white sheet. So zoom extents. So this represents an A1 sheet. I can check that by going distance from there across to there. We should get 841, and we do. So within it is a full-size drawing or view of the drawing. The only thing we haven't got is a defined scale factor, and it's easy to do that and easy to manipulate our view. Just say we're not happy with the location of that on the sheet and we want to change it, then you just select the floating viewport and then right click and activate the viewport. Now the magenta line shows the viewport. Here's the center point of the viewport. We could move it around, we could make it a little narrower and adjust it further. You can see I've cropped off the top edge just to show you what is happening, or I could bring in like so and then move this around. So now we'll have a view showing part of the scale bar and that part of the drawing. So let's now display on the layout, and I'll deactivate the viewport. Can you see whatever we had surrounded by that magenta area now appears on the sheet. Let's go back and, let's select the layout, the floating viewport again, and activate the viewport, and let's set up a more sensible layout like we had before. I'll just zoom out a little. What we are aiming to do here is to set things up so that we get the whole of the design onto the sheet like so. Now I can go back to the sheet, display on the layout, and deactivate the viewport, and there we are. There's the view. If you find the line around the edge which represents the floating viewport, you can select it like so and just change its color. Change its color to 255, and then we'll deactivate. We will unselect, and now that line disappears. So that enables, we've got plenty of space within here to put other parts of the drawing, photographs and so on that we want to put in. This is a very large site. If I use the tools and distance and we measure from there across to there, it's 150 meters or so from one side of the site to the other. So when we go on to the layout on an A1 sheet, so I'll click layout. By the way, I'll right click and go to the layouts manager and just change this and get back to A1, a more meaningful name, A1 sheet colon scale 1 to 500. I would think we're going to need something like that. So we'll OK that. Now if we select that floating viewport, when we have it, and we come over here, we can play with scales. I've done some preliminary work. If I went to 1 to 250, you can see we get a fair amount of the site, but not all. You might, in fact, be happy with the 1 to 250, and you could move the viewport a little bit and get a little more in. But just for the moment and for the purposes of this argument, if I went 1 to 100, you'll see it gets magnified even more. We're magnifying part of the model on this sheet at 1 to 100. I've said fixed scale no, because that's giving me a chance to play. So I'll say 1 to 500, and I'll fix the scale on this sheet. So now we have, and deselect the, I'm trying to deselect all. So now we're right, the escape button did it for me. So now we have the model displayed accurately at 1 to 100, 1 to 500 on an A1 sheet. That leaves me a lot of space around here to put other illustrative materials. That might be my plant list, my the details of site location and so on. And there's in fact nothing else, there is nothing stopping us putting other floating viewports. But I hope I've given you enough at the moment to encourage you to have the model, everything drawn full size in the model, but then just use a whole series of layouts to display different things. I'll do a layout for the parking area say on an A3 sheet at 1 to 200, and we'll see how we go. Well, I've created a new A3 sheet. I've called it scale 1 to 100 parking area. So let's click on that sheet and you can see the display. To get some fine adjustment, I can select the floating viewport and activate it and just move it around however I want. I can adjust the rotation angle too of the viewport. Should I want, I can move it there or spin it like so and square things up. And when I come back to display on the layout and then get away from there, deactivate the viewport, there we see the layout. So I can square things up and get those lines perfectly horizontal if that's what I'm after. You can even do fine tuning at this point by just moving stuff, being the sheet, around and cramping it up in that way. That will of course change our view and leave some space for us to do other things. It's still a scale of 1 to 100 down in that zone, and we could create another viewport up in that zone should we need to. I'll just for the moment move it back up to that point. So it's 1 to 100 on an A3 sheet. Let's escape from there. So that, can you see that from this one model we can, and you notice that as I returned, I was looking at that view, as I returned to that view, it automatically jumped back in model space to that view, so I can zoom extents. So here's the model, and we just have a whole series of named sheets across here to display various aspects of the design on different size sheets. Some sheets ready to put photographs to illustrate our species, as I will illustrate in a minute. Well, I mentioned that I would like to put some images in and around the full drawing to illustrate the species that I'm going to specify in there. And if you're using the plant database application, you have the location or the path of the image name. It's just a matter of selecting it and copy it, return to our CAD drawing program, go back into the A1 sheet. We zoom in on one particular area. So let's say we've got some symbols illustrating planting along here that is going to use an agapanthus. It's now just a matter of saying draw, raster image, add, and we already have the file name, so we can go Control V and paste, and we've got the one that we wanted, and so we can insert it. So it's just a matter of drawing a box on the screen, and in goes the illustration that matches some planting that we might put in that area. But that does go into paper space. I would not put it in the model space. It's just dressing up this view. Let me zoom extents. You see I've got lots of room around here, if that's what I want, to show species that are going to be used in the whole design. So we're getting to the point now where it's really personal preference as to what scale you use, what paper you want to use, how many images you want to put in here, and what other information, including your planting lists and so on, need to go in here. I'm sorry this has been such a long movie, but I hope I've covered a fairly wide range of tools that are available in the gCADPlus environment.